Hello, Senpai Recap is here. Please consider subscribing and don't forget to turn on the notification bell so that you are always updated with our uploads. Ewan, an otaku, is on his way to a convention. Upon crossing the passenger boarding bridge to the plane, he was suddenly transported to a fantasy world filled with magic and demons. Ewan sees magical beings passing him by everywhere he looks, including dragons, witches, ice spells, and others. He starts taking selfies, but after a while, he starts to realize that everything is real and that he is in another world, which shocks him. After several days of confusion and disbelief, he gathers himself and proudly proclaims that he must be chosen as a hero. An old man approaches him and believes Ewan must be trying out for the entrance exam to Shuoyu Academy, so takes him to the exam. Ewan walks through the crowded hallways of the academy until he comes to the enormous crystalline stone known as the test crystal. The examiners tell them that the test crystal will judge the applicant's qualifications. Ewan approaches the stone with overwhelming confidence, placing his hand on the stone, which starts to glow with white light. However, everyone in the room starts laughing at him. Unfortunately, he did not pass the entrance exam at Shuoyu Academy. The examiner states that the light color of the stone represents one's propensity for magic. It turns out Ewan's light is white, which means he has no potential for magic, much to Ewan's disappointment. One of the examiners investigates and sees a small sign of green light. This means Ewan has at least a small affinity for wood magic. Ewan is heartbroken and is laughed off by everyone, telling him he should come back once the green light is at least the size of a small finger. Afterwards, Ewan goes to the forest to use wood magic on a tree, but with no effect. The same old man who guided him to the academy appears and tells him that if he wants to survive on this continent, he can become a great gardener since wood magic is rare. Not having any other choice, Ewan gladly accepts his offer. Ewan works long hours every day, watering and tilling gardens. He eventually learns how to use his magic to make plants grow. One day, Ewan hears a sound from the nearby forest. Ewan investigates and takes a peek while hiding in the bushes. Ewan finds two boys admiring the beautiful woman. The woman hears Ewan hiding and orders the two men to capture him. He tries to run away, but they eventually catch up using their magic power. The woman threatens Ewan that they should not see him again. Later that night, Ewan is sad that he has no real purpose and no magic. The old man tells him that when he was young, he traveled all over the continent until he found a fairy seed. The old man shows him the fairy seed and states that he was unable to grow the seed. He promised Ewan that if he could discover a way to grow it, it would be his. Ewan notices a Chinese character on the seed, which means seal. The next morning, Ewan tried many methods to break the seal, but to no avail. One night, he cuts his finger with a blade, putting drops of blood on the seed. However, it still does not work. He then walks through the forest and hears the two men being seduced by the woman again. The woman suddenly bites his neck instead, instantly killing him. The woman named Shasha reveals her true form to be a vampiric succubus. The other man uses earth magic to fight back against Shasha, but he is overpowered by Shasha's thorny vine magic, which destroys his spells and kills him in an instant. Ewan sees all this and decides to run for his life. However, Shasha sees him and appears in front of him, catching him with her vine magic. She uses the vines to spear brutally through Ewan's chest. While Ewan appears to be dying, the fairy spirit seed eventually sprouts, and crimson light and red flowers start to bloom. One of the flowers blooms, revealing a red fairy spirit, a fully grown woman with horns and wings of her own. However, the woman materializes a sword and declares she will take Ewan's life. The fairy couldn't do it because Ewan was dying, and she wanted to kill him with her own hand. She instead cuts Ewan down from the thorns and places him on the ground. She notices that his vitality is quickly fading and decides to substitute it with the vampires. Then she attacked Shasha with a single strike. This leads to Shasha's death, and the damage she received becomes energy that heals Ewan. Then Ewan wakes up and sees how beautiful the fairy is. He gets happy that his method finally worked and thanks her for helping him. However, the fairy told him that she only healed Ewan so that she could kill him herself. She charges at Ewan, but the damage that Ewan should receive becomes the fairy's wound. No matter how many times she tries to cut him, she only ends up hurting herself. Their quarrel gets interrupted when a blonde woman suddenly appears and introduces herself as the chairman of Shuo Academy. Ursi warns the fairy to stop, as she will only hurt herself, but the fairy ignores her and tries to attack Yuen again. But there is an invisible barrier to protect Yuen. Ursi tells Yuen to forget about the fairy for a moment and gives him the fairy guidebook. As soon as he grabs it, he becomes covered with red light energy and orders the fairy to return to seed form. The fairy, absorbed by the book, turned into a drawing with a label named Mofi. Ursi takes Yuen back to the academy and explains about fairies. Ursi will give the book to Yuen on the condition that he becomes a student at Shui Academy and finds the vampire hiding in the academy. In return, she will also give him 2 fairy seeds. With no hesitation, Yuen agreed and said he would be a loyal pet from now on. Afterwards, Yuen reads in the book that a fairy spirit will get stronger depending on how much it likes its owner. Suddenly, the manual glows, and a small fairy tasked with guiding the reader, Yezi, talks to Yuen. Yezi reveals that fairies are not born, but were once humans who became fairies. Once they became fairy, they gave up their freedom and had to follow their owner. Yezi enters Yuen's cell phone to make it comfortable for him to talk. The next day, Yuen goes to the academy, and a noble is disgusted that he is attending school with him. Later in magic battle class, the noble challenges Yuen to a duel. Yuen tries to refuse, but the teacher forces him to fight. While the duel is about to begin, the royal princess arrives with a horse chariot to be an audience for the battle. Her royal knight, Luri, is her escort. After giving the princess a formal greeting, the noble uses wind magic to start the fight. After that, the bully unleashes a tornado. Mofi telepathically instructs Yuen to enter the tornado's center, which is its weakest point. As instructed, Yuen moves into the center and lets loose vines, which causes the tornado to blow up and defeat the noble. The princess is happy with the result of the battle. However, Yuen's massive energy release causes him to pass out. Yuen wakes up and is transported to another location, where people flee for their lives. He sees a child version of Mofi sitting on the floor with rags for clothes. Not knowing what else to do, Yuen starts to take care of her, trying to relieve her fever. Later, 2 men spot the two and decide they can sell Mofi for her beauty. After hitting Yuen, they fled with Mofi. However, Yuen grabs Mofi and tries to run away, but they catch up and start beating him up. Suddenly, Yuen wakes up in the infirmary of the academy. Yezi explains that he got transported to the fairy spirit world in Mofi's memories when she was still human. Yuen feels sympathy for Mofi's past and decides to call her over the phone, but just at that moment, 2 girls enter the infirmary, making Yuen quickly hide under his bed. Yuen recognizes the 2 as succubi right away and wants to stay silent to avoid being detected. They both start sucking up the energy of other students who are lying next to his bed. Before they reach Yuen, Liori enters the room and informs them that the plan they have made will happen tonight. Later that night, he's making some ramen for himself when he notices that someone is outside his home. He is nervous that it might be the succubus. Yuen slowly opens the door and throws a wild punch, knocking the person outside. He then takes a closer look, and it turns out that he punched the princess. After checking no guards, he immediately pulled the princess and put her on his bed. Later, the princess wakes up, surprised that there is a man beside her, and punches Yuen. Yuen makes her some ramen to apologize, and she finds it so delicious that she calms down. Suddenly, the succubus duo destroys Yuen's door and searches the place to find him. As soon as they spot that Yuen and the princess are hidden, Yuen releases his vines, which slow them down just enough to let them escape outside. Yuen orders the princess to hide in the forest while he deals with the succubus. He summons Mofi to fight them. Mofi is so strong that he is throwing the 2 succubi around. As Mofi is ready to finish them off, Luri joins the battle. The 2 succubi are happy that their master has come to their aid, but Luri quickly puts them to death. Yezi warns Yuen that Mofi is no match for Luri since he is a level 8 knight. Regardless, the match between Mofi and Luri begins. They both go into battle, but Mofi is unable to keep up with him due to her lack of strength. Yuen asks Yezi what he can do for Mofi to win the battle. Yezi tells him that Mo-Fi needs to like him so that her power will increase. There are two ways to do it. The first is for daily interaction between Mo-Fi and Yuan. The second option is to build her trust by going to the spirit world, but he doesn't have much spirit energy at the moment. Luckily, the princess returns to Yuan, volunteering to give him some of her energy. Kai witnesses the fight between Mofi and Luri, but Luri is too far away for her to recognize him. Yuan is trying to hide the fact that her royal knight is a villain by telling her to close her eyes in exchange for instant noodles. Kai agrees, and she gives spiritual energy to Yuan's to send him to the spirit world. As Kai and Yuan are occupied with their ritual of sharing energy, Luri tries to launch a strong energy blast at them, but Mo-Fi anticipates the blast and protects them with her body. In the instant of impact, Yuan is transported to Mo-Fi's memories. Yuan awakens once more in the realm of the spirit world, but several years have passed. He notices Mo-Fi standing over the bodies of a few goons. Yuan tries to call out to her, but she is unable to listen to him or even touch her. He follows Mo-Fi around as she goes to collect the money for killing the thugs from an inn. On the way to her home, she notices a man with long hair sitting on the sidewalk in front of her house, petting a cat. Much to Yuan's surprise, the man who looks exactly like him. Mo-Fi approaches the man and asks to buy the sword, but he refuses to sell it. The following morning, as she gets ready for the day, Mo-Fi looks out her window and sees that the man is still in front of the house, entertaining the kids with his violin. One day, the man is protecting the same little girl who gave him a flower from men trying to kidnap her. He is being beaten up as he uses his body as a shield. Mo-Fi intervenes, and with her reputation as a skilled killer, the attackers run away. To thank her, the man hands Mo-Fi his sword. Mo-Fi takes the sword, and in exchange, she promises that she will help the man whenever he is in danger. In the distance, Yuan tells Yezi that he is obviously plotting something naughty and manipulating Mo-Fi's emotions. Yuan keeps trying to get Mo-Fi's attention, but he is unable to do anything. Once Mo-Fi separates from the man, Yuan calls the man insulting names. The man answers, telling Yuan enough and revealing that he can see Yuan all along. The man tells him that he is doing nothing wrong, as he is just leveling her up like a game, just like he does. Yuan denies that they are the same, claiming that he doesn't treat Mo-Fi like a character from a video game. Afterwards, Yuan keeps trying to get Mo-Fi's attention, but he is unable to do anything again. Later, Mo-Fi meets up with an eye-patched man who handles the missions. Mo-Fi asks the man to double the pay. The eye-patched man states that murderer Mo-Fi can also fall in love, but he warns Mo-Fi that she will get hurt. Mo-Fi leaves, rejecting his advice. She runs towards the man, excited that she has the tickets that can get them to Garden Paradise. After taking the tickets, the man instructs Mo-Fi to meet in the tower after 3 days. After 3 days, Mo-Fi leaves her place with a packed bag and sword. When she arrives at the lighthouse, she begins to wait patiently. But the man never appears. Her absence causes things in the city to worsen, with gangs going on the rampage. Mo-Fi had been waiting for the man for 3 days and nights. Yuan can only stare at Mo-Fi's sad face while she waits in the heavy rain. The next day, the eye-patched man warns Mo-Fi that enemies from the Western District are surrounding the tower. The enemies fire a cannon at the tower, and the eye-patched man pushes Mo-Fi away to save her. Mo-Fi is safe, but the eye-patched man is dead. Mo-Fi suddenly realizes that the man is in trouble, so she rushes down to fight them. As she runs, she kills the men on her path. She notices the girl that the man once saved before being taken hostage. The thugs demand that Mo-Fi surrender. If not, they will kill the little girl. However, Mo-Fi rushes toward the thugs and eliminates every enemy. Only the little girl is left. She reassures the girl that everything will be alright. But to Yuan's surprise, the girl stabs Mo-Fi in the stomach. As Mo-Fi bleeds on the floor, she looks up and sees the man who promised to leave this hell with her standing over her, smiling. Mo-Fi looks at the man, happy to see that he isn't injured. But the little girl approaches the man and tells him he is right about Mo-Fi being easier to kill than an ant. The leader of the thugs steps forward, and it turns out that the man with long hair convinced the leader of the Western District that he could invade the Eastern District with his help. Mo-Fi weakly makes her way over to the man to cut him down, but the thugs catch her and pin her to the ground. The leader of the Western District tells the man with long hair that he wants to kill Mo-Fi. However, the man summons his fairies and destroys the entire city. Mo-Fi attacks the man with long hair, willing to sacrifice her life for it. However, one of the fairy spirits blocks her attack. No matter how many times Mo-Fi attacks, the fairy is there to block it until her sword breaks. Meanwhile, Yuen was still watching the events and was not able to help. The man offers Mo-Fi a way to survive. The man turns the red spider lily flower he is holding into a red light ball and tells Mo-Fi to become a fairy spirit. He reveals his identity as a traveler who looks for suitable women to transform into fairy spirits. But he can't make Mo-Fi one without permission. In order for Mo-Fi to exact revenge on him, he offers her an eternal life. Mo-Fi agrees to the terms and vows to exact revenge no matter what. Mo-Fi receives the ball of light, which painfully envelops her in a tower of crimson, spiny vines. Yuen is so angry that he punches the man, only for him to go through him. The man claims that he is only catching and evolving game characters. He knows everything about Yuen, including the fact that he is from another world and wants to gather fairy spirits in order to rule the world. The man with long hair leaves, and he tells him that it is just like a game and he should indulge in it as well. Then Yuen transferred to another place, where there was a tower of thorns, on top of which Mo-Fi was entangled. He remembers that the first time he summoned Mo-Fi, it was because his chest was injured. He notices the man's broken sword on the ground and realizes what he must do. However, Yezi warns that since the memory world is powered by Yuen's spirit energy, if he stabs himself, he may not wake up ever again. Despite that, Yuen grabs the sword and positions the blade towards his chest. Yuen cries, thinking of himself as weak. Yuen realizes he can no longer pull back. He sees the other end of the blade stuck on the ground and starts climbing the Tower of Thorns. Yuen kisses Mo-Fi on the lips and lets go of the vines. Yuen falls straight to the blade on the ground. Memories start flooding back into Mo-Fi's mind as she realizes that the man who betrayed her wasn't Yuen, but someone else entirely. With this, Mo-Fi wakes up from the vines and frees herself. Mo-Fi approaches Yuen's lifeless body and removes the blade from his chest. Mo-Fi begs Yuen not to die as she cries over him. As Mo-Fi is about to leave, Yuen wakes up and grabs her by the ankle to stop her. Feeling deceived by Yuen's survival, Mo-Fi draws her sword and demands an explanation. Yuen explains that in order for him to reach the memory world, Princess Kai is currently providing spirit energy to him and strengthening Mo-Fi's ability. Mo-Fi forgives him, but warns Yuen not to do it again. Mo-Fi holds Yuen's hand, ready to exit the memory world together. Yuen finally wakes up to reality just before Princess Kai passes out. He puts her in a safe place and then goes to join Mo-Fi, who is waiting for him. Yuen and Mo-Fi fuse together, creating powerful gusts of energy in the process. Yuen glows crimson in his new form and has red thorn vines covering him all over. Both of them engage in battle, but Luori is unable to take the upper hand. All of his attacks are easily blocked by Yuen. Luori is outmatched in every respect, from speed and strength to magical attacks. With a powerful fireball of a punch, he throws him to the ground with such power that the academy feels like an earthquake. Yuen separates from Mo-Fi, worried that he might have overdone it, but Mo-Fi tells him that Luori was just knocked out. Suddenly, Ursi appears to congratulate the two for taking care of the succubus problem. She hands him the other 2 fairy seeds as promised, and tells him to keep everything that happened tonight between them as she figures out how to handle Luori. The next day at the academy, Yuen was too tired from last night's battle. The teacher announces that they have new students. Princess Kai and Mo-Fi enter the classroom and introduce themselves. Yuen doesn't even notice until the noise wakes him up. He is shocked to see that Princess Kai and Mo-Fi are beside him, and he asks why. All the boys in class are so jealous of Yuen. Yuen tries to clear up the misunderstanding, but they start to chase him. Yuen manages to lose the crowd and uses the opportunity to go to the library and learn magic. Yuen is amazed at how many books there are. Then he asks the librarian to lend him books about accelerating seed and plant growth. The librarian hands him a few scrolls and an encyclopedia about plants. Later that night, Yuen goes to the lake. excited that he can grow the 2 seeds Ursa gave him. But Yezi tells him that scrolls will not work. She gives Yuan instructions to feed her the encyclopedia so she can absorb the knowledge in the book. Yuan examines the fairy's seeds closely and studies their seals. Knowing what he needs to do, Yuan plants pink lotuses on the lake and throws the pink fairy spirit seed into the lake with them. Yuan then just puts the blue fairy spirit seed on the ground. Meanwhile, Rui returns to a castle in the Orf Empire to report to his master. Rui apologizes, explaining that the reason he failed was because he did not realize the princess would be guarded by fairy spirits. The king laughs and orders him to bring the fairy to him and kill Yuan by any means necessary. Back at Yuan, after 7 days, the lake glows with energy, growing a giant lotus that blooms with a pink fairy spirit. Yuan is excited. Mo-Fi feels worried since the lotus is intended to be twins, yet only one of the flowers blooms. When the pink fairy spirits see Yuan, she becomes enraged with him right away. She charges at Yuan, with Faye ready to protect. Before the pink fairy spirit's attack connects, a blue light shines from the distance. It turns out that the blue fairy seed also blooms. The pink and blue fairy spirits greet each other, and the pink fairy spirit declares that they are sisters. The 2 fairies see Yuan and ask him if they are cute. Yuan sees the 2 being so cute that it causes him to bleed from his nose. However, Yuan notices Mo-Fi being angry behind him, so tells the 2 new fairy spirits that he needs to put them in the manual. The 2 became pages in the manual, making Yuan excited as he added new fairy spirits to his collection. Afterwards, Ursi calls Yuan and tells him that the Knights of Orphe, to which Liuori and Princess Kai belong, have started to lead the knights aggressively, and their main target is Princess Kai and him since he has the power of fairies now. She told Yuan that his presence was a threat to the academy, so he had to leave the academy with the princess. On the day before Yuan left the town, the librarian asked him to look for scrolls for her. She handed him a stone, telling him to place the scrolls on top of it, and in return, he would get rewards, which he gladly accepted. Yuan sets out on a journey with Princess Kai and Mo-Fi, together with his 2 new fairies, Yuan and Shuang. They arrive at a lake and encounter a fairy dragon named Georgios. The dragon threatens Yuan with a fireball, telling him to hand him over to the fairies or he will kill him. The fairies get ready to fight the dragon, but Yuan stops her, telling her that he wants to fight himself. Yuan and the dragon fight each other. Yuan continued to run around, but the dragon didn't appear to be winning. Yuan uses his vine power to capture the dragon. Georgios thinks that taking on Yuan might be too much for him, so he decides to give up. The dragon fled the scene and left him a flute to summon him when he's in trouble. Afterwards, the party arrives at Woody Lake and decides to spend the night at a resort. The 4 of them sit outside while Princess Kai sleeps in her room. Here, they learned about the legend of Woody Lake and Lotus Frost's past. Yuan sees Shuang behaving strangely. When he approaches her and asks what's wrong, she simply tells him she is sick seeing him and she can't wait to tear him up. When Yuan tells her that she's probably suffering from amnesia and will eventually remember her past, Shuang becomes furious. She tries to attack him, but is knocked down by an invisible barrier. Suddenly, a group of Knights of Orphe appeared to kill Yuan. The group tells him to pay up, or they make him pay up. Mo-Fi and Yuan rush to his side, while Yuan uses the whistle to call Georgios to help him. However, the dragon sided with the Knights of Orphe, saying that he didn't agree to help him. While the fairies fight the knights, Yuan takes on Georgios, driving him into the lake, where his fight with him ends up uncovering a seal at the bottom of the lake. The lake fills up with spiritual energy. One of the assassins attacked the sister, but Yuan tried to block it but got hurt. This is anger, and Shuang can easily block the attack. Mo-Fi went after Yuan but found nothing, so she went back to the fairies. Meanwhile, Luri stands over Princess Kai in her room, watching her sleep. While he cried, he took out his sword and went to finish his mission. Meanwhile, Yuan is falling down the lake and wakes up in a spirit world. He notices the same man who tortured Mo-Fi standing next to him. The man informed him that a new game had started. Then Yuan sees a girl who looks just like Shuang approaching him. Upon noticing his hand injury, she applies a bandage and instructs him to take care of himself. Before she leaves, Yuan asks her name, and she tells him that it's Lion Luo. Yuan instantly realizes that she is Shuang. The man tells him that this is Shuang's memory, and he must follow her if he wants to go back to the real world. He needs to save them. Before he proceeds, the man punches a tree, and a baby dragon falls from it. The baby dragon is Giorgio's, whom he scares to obey his orders. He orders him to help him investigate Lion Luo. After some time, he goes back to tell the man that she was trying to heal her sick sister and tells him about her work picking lotus for a living. This angered Yuan, and he said that he wouldn't allow him to hunt Lion Luo, but he just passed through him. The man went on to meet Lion Luo and started to slowly gain her trust by helping her gather herbs for her sister in a cave. They arrived at the cave and found the herb, but were attacked by a giant cat monster. The man immediately saves Lion Luo from the attack, but she goes up to pick up the herb. Suddenly the ground shakes and a rock falls on her, but the man swoops in to save her at the last moment, acting like a hero. The two left our guy and ran away from the giant cat monster, but they ended up at a dead end. As the man prepared for a fight with the giant cat monster, Lion Luo grabbed a stick and attempted to attack the enraged monster, only to be saved again by the man. The man then stopped the monster's foot, and with a flick of his finger, he knocked down the giant cat monster easily. The man sees Lion Luo again, and she informs him that no matter how many herbs she gives her sister, she will not be able to heal. The man informs her about a recipe that can cure her. The purity of 3 incarnations, but he still needs to find the final part of the ritual to fully heal her. Lion Luo, who is now mindlessly obeying his orders, promises to do whatever it takes to cure his sister. Yuan observes from a distance, surprised by how easily he manipulates her mind. Later that night, Yuan follows Lion Luo to her home, where he sees her sister laying on a bed waiting for her sister. The next day, the man follows Lion Luo and tells her lies in order to win her heart. The man eventually tells her that he likes her, but Lion Luo dismisses him, claiming that she must look after his sister first. The man insists on pressing a date on her and invites her to a lake the next day. Lin Luo becomes intrigued by Lion Luo's dramatic change and resolves to go check for herself who he is. She dresses up as Lion Luo and goes on the date. The man puts her on a boat in the middle of the lake and confesses the sad truth to her. Lion Luo fell into the lake as a child, and her sister jumped after her. Although both were saved by adults, Lin Luo got sick and couldn't stand up anymore. After reaching the heart of the lake, Lin Luo began to cough up blood and eventually passed out. Lion Luo followed them to the lake in a different boat and asked the man to help cure her sister. Lin Luo wakes up, and Lion Luo tells her that she has been sleeping all day. Lin Luo is confused about whether she did actually go on a date or if she has been dreaming all day. Lin Luo meets the man again, and the man reveals that he found the last medicine. But he tells her it's too expensive for what it's worth and very dangerous. But Lin Luo insisted that no matter what it cost, she would do anything to cure herself. The man revealed the last medicine was the blood of a patient relative, and the amount needed was too large, which means she needs to kill her own sister. Lin Luo decided to follow Lion Luo to the man. Lion Luo blames herself for ruining his sister's future and cannot give her a medicine that can cure her. Lin Luo is brokenhearted by his sister's pain. Later that night, Lion Luo excitedly tells Lin Luo about the man and that she has decided to be with him forever. And she knows his own sister will always support her. While Lion Luo was preparing her favorite food, Lin Luo approached her from behind while holding a knife. When she was about to stab her, she hesitated, but Lion Luo told her to just do it. Knowing that this has to be done, she stabs herself. Lion falls down. She assures Lin Luo that it is fine since the man will take care of her and advises her to hurry because there is not much time left. Lin Lu carries his sister over to the lake, where the man is waiting for her. She drops Lion Luo at his feet and starts to cry. Yuan is speechless, seeing everything that's happening in front of him. The man gives her one more false hope, telling her that everything will return to normal and she will be reunited with her sister forever. Lin Lu decided that life wasn't worth it anymore, so she brought her sister to the lake and prayed that they'd be together even in death. The man then uses magic to give her a twin lotus flower, assuring his sister that both of them will transform into fairies and be revived as twins again. Lin Lu accepts the twin water flower, and a massive lotus bloom emerges from the water, engulfing them both and developing a bud. However, Lion Lu's bud fails to fully develop because she cuts off his own memory. The man looks at Yuan and says that this is the end of the story. Yuan tries to beat him, but is no match for his strength. He quickly knocks Yuan to a pulp, telling him that it's all a game and that he shouldn't get too worked up about it because he can't save them. Yuan awakens in the spirit world again, this time in physical form, and realizes that it is now his turn to play the game. The guy in spirit form informs Yuan that if he fails to save them both, he will be unable to get out of the spirit world, and his companions outside will die. Yuan accepts the challenge and prepares as Lion approaches him to bandage his arm. Yuan begins similarly to the man, and they immediately went to find the ingredient for Lin's illness. However, no matter what ingredient she used, his sister did not recover. The next day, Yuan revealed to Lin that they had a new recipe that could cure all diseases. The problem is that the last ingredient is the blood of the most dear person to her. Yuan does not want Lion to sacrifice herself. She assures him that he does not need to worry because she will never harm her sister, causing him to forget everything about his worries. She invites him over for dinner with her and Lion that night. Later at night, the two take a bite of their dinner made by Lin, but both of them fall unconscious, and Yuan wakes up to find both sisters gone. Realizing Lin has drugged them, he races toward the lake to prevent Lin from entering, but it is too late. The man laughs at Yuan's foolish attempts. Yuan asks him to give him another chance since he believes he can help them now. The man agrees to give him one last chance. Yuan wakes up to start the game again. This time, he follows the man's steps until Lion commits suicide. Just as she is ready to do it, Yuan breaks into her home and tells her to stop, that there are still things she can enjoy in life despite her disability, and begs her not to waste her life. The two embrace each other while crying. Seeing them safe makes Yuan happy. The man expresses his gratitude for his success in saving the sister, but tells him that this is just a memory and he cannot change the past. Yuan falls to his knees and begins to cry as he hears Lin's voice. Upon opening his hands, he sees Lin standing to it. She thanks him for trying to help her and tells him that, despite being unable to change the past, she can still change her future. A portal appears in front of them, and Yuan pushes Yuan through it, returning him to reality. Georgios joins Yuan and pledges his loyalty to him. Outside the spirit world, Liori is about to kill Princess Kai, but she's shielded by protection. The princess woke up and hugged him, explaining that she was on an adventure with Yuan and all of her new friends. She asks if he would like to join them, but Luo refuses. Their reunion is interrupted by the sound of an intense battle outside. They both go outside and witness the fairies fight the knights. Luori attacked the sibling, and Princess Kai was shocked to see this. Yuan emerges from the lake, and Georgios shoots out of the lake, with Yuan sitting on top of him. He lands near Princess Kai and places her on top of Georgios, instructing him to protect him at all costs. Yuan turns his focus to the knights and Luo as Shuang unites with him, granting him the capacity to manipulate power. The knights attempt to combat him themselves, but they are no match for him. Yuan easily defeated the enemy, turning them into human ice cubes. Lurie eventually break the ice and unleash his Aurora Dragon Sword. Yuan fused with Mo-Fi while on a fuse with Lion, further increasing his power. The two start unleashing their powerful attack. The knight didn't even get to throw his power move, no matter how much he tried. Yuan unleashed his Noble Phantasm, and Luori failed to fend off Yuan's attacks and eventually got knocked onto his back. Before Yuan can finish him off, Princess Anki steps in front of Luori to stop him. The princess tells Luori to stop bothering him, as Yuan can easily kill him. Yuan then seems to understand the princess and separate from Mo-Fi and Shuang. Luori, completely defeated, gets up and begins to leave, telling Princess Kai that they will meet again sometime. A massive twin lotus flower emerges from within the lake. Shuang apologizes to Yuan, informing him that the flower took her sister's life and that she must protect it for now. Yuan has no objections to her decision and allows her to do as she pleases. Yuan departs with Princess Kai, Mo-Fi, and Yuan, riding on top of Georgios. After a while, Princess Kai delivers Yuan another fairy seed, claiming that Shuang gave it to her before departing. Thank you for watching till the end, and please don't forget to subscribe. See you next time, and peace out.